if you look up in the left corner, you see the Sinai Peninsula around these red lines. And then if they were in the land of Midian, which is represented by the X we see there. And then the question is, did they went back? That's the red lines that indicate that. Did they went back to the Sinai Peninsula? Of course not. It's about the size of 2 Los Angeles. It's a tiny little place for being 40 years. And did they went back to Egypt? No, they did not. Did they went into Canaan up north? No. There were some spies sent up, but that was a later event. Did they went up east of the Dead Sea, up to Moab, today's Jordan and these areas? No, that was the later part. And then the question is, if they are at this X, at the land of Midian, where did they spend the 40 years in the wilderness? And there's only one answer to it, and that is the Arabian Peninsula, that you can see this whole yellow area. Wow. And what I've labeled there in the book, you can see much, much more of this. When I go through these ancient maps, I find so many Hebrew names, ancient maps, not modern maps, Hebrew names of families of Abraham, of the family of Jacob, and I find names like Israel, the living quarters of the tribe of Gad, that actually settled outside Canaan, in parentheses. And piece after piece after piece. And if we go back to this image, I have one thing labeled here, and that is not really one of the campsites.
What's the number of that one, Leonard?
That is 50, number 50. Same map. You see, I have labeled one thing there with a K, with a blue circle. And that is the Wadi of Korah, or Korach. And that is the place where there was a revolt against Moses.
Yes.
And 250 people or so just died at that event. That's just one location. But in the book, I have pinpointed many different suggestions for campsites. And then we can follow them down on the coastlines and then up again. And then we have this Arabic source that says, when Moses was with his people, on the way back to the Promised Land, they passed through or by Mecca.
Mecca, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is exactly according to what I have suggested as campsites. You see, we have about 15 campsites in the beginning of this list from Numbers. That is basically from Egypt to the mountain. We have about 15 in the end, which is east of the Dead Sea and into Jericho. And then we have about 15 in the middle that no one knows anything about. And there we find traces and connections to the Arabian Peninsula.
All in Arabia. And by the way, I would like to add, many of these maps that Leonard has studied are the originals that he is in the possession of.
Yes, I have them
So
back
this is
home.
not something that has likely been altered because he has an extensive collection of ancient maps.
Oh,
To
that's
work
great.
with originals, you know, science again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went through basically all maps of relevance from these time periods. And we should look at the names before they have modernized them into Arabic names.
Yes. I think the thing that astounded me the most when Jim and Penny first let us meet you through the film was your discovery of that menorah.
Yeah. And that is Dr. Kim from Korea that was working in Saudi that found it.
Yes, it was.
It's a perfect image of the menorah. And if we just, 2-3 words, just say that the letters behind it, or beside it, or just in connection to the menorah, they are very old, proto-alphabetical language letters, which means that this menorah is likely the oldest menorah that exists. The oldest we know of is the one in Rome, depicted when the Romans took it from Jerusalem, 70 AD. But this one could likely be, and most likely be, around the time of Exodus, around 1500 BC, 1446 or so. And of course, where do we find it? In the land of Midian.
In the mid.
You know, talking about when I talk about you people, I always talk about, because we're in oil country, and many of the geologists here went over to find where Asher dipped his toe.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then to find out it sits right in the main, am I correct in when I say the main oil field of Saudi Arabia?
The Eastern Province.
Right where he worked.
Yeah, largest oil fields in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
I was hoping that we had that Asher on one of these old
No, we
maps,
don't have
but we
it on-
don't have the slide.
there are
with
so
it.
many
It's in the
images.
book, though.
Yeah.
It is in
That
the
one
book.
is, and it
Where-
points to
yes.
the name of Asher in the eastern province, right over this vast area
Yeah,
of
exactly
the oil
there.
fields.
Yeah.
They don't have to dig in the southern Negev looking for oil. They already
Yeah.
have it. It's in the eastern province of
Yeah,
Saudi Arabia.
Jim worked at the refinery of those oil
That's
fields.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the ancient maps, I see exactly that tribe was there.
Yes.
It's labeled by the French in the 1700s. I haven't made it. I just read
Yes.
what they have made.
Of course, you won't find that on the current day
No,
map.
and
No.
in modern maps, of
Not at
course,
all.
I
nothing.
wouldn't think Saudi Arabia would want that on there. No.
No.
They're
To put
pumping
it
it out of the
mildly.
ground as fast as they
As
can.
fast as they can. Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't that just fascinating that the evidence continues when you move into the Arabian Peninsula? And with that evidence comes a broad range of possible scenarios. Why is it coming out now? Why are these things so important? To what do we have to deal with now when faced with these things? I think Leonard does a magnificent job in the book of putting out a case just as it would be to a jury. And he is exactly right. Don't believe what we are sitting here telling you,
Look
that
at the
from times
evidence.
before or even now. Go to these things yourself. Get that book and have a look at it and see if these things are not as logical as we're saying they are.
Wow. Well, that's true. Some of the people who are saying, I don't believe what you're broadcasting, you jerk. Well, get the book and see if the jerk is right.
There you
I
go.
love that attitude.
That's right. That's
You
right.
don't care.
No.
They're going to call you what?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah,
care.
really.
This is not popular,
You're gonna
but
do
truth
what God-
normally isn't.
Well, it
That's
goes
true.
against what we've been taught.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I
But
struggled with that
just
too.
as it is in science, I apply this. And the thing is that we don't stop science. We continue to develop all the time. And in science, we just look at the data. And the data speaks for itself.
I don't know how Tommy and I can thank you on behalf of the people who are going to tune into this.
We
And,
just want you to promise you will come back.
That
Will
we,
you come
that
back
we will
sometime?
do.
Okay.
And much more.
Okay.
We have a lot more to bring
They,
as well.
they will have so much more when they come back. Thank you for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it as much as Al and I did. And thank you so much. Thank
Again
you
and
It's
so
our
again and
pleasure.
much,
again.
all
Bless
of you
you.
for coming.
All three of you. See you again.